in the South. That tells you the talent. DeMarcus Ware, if I recall, not offered a scholarship. Let's bring him on live. He's got a new fitness app. That is the story. I swear to God, I heard that story years ago. You grew up in Alabama, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Alabama, man. I got one scholarship going to Troy University, and I played wide receiver, converted to defensive end. How about that?
Were you not? What were you like in high school? Were you skinny and no good, or what?
All of the words you just said were just smart as crap.
That is funny.
So I made good grades.
There you go. Doesn't surprise me. So I want to talk about first about a team that you used to face all the time, New York Giants. Because Jason Garrett, you know well. Garrett gets fired in Dallas, goes to the Giants, and everybody says, oh, boy, that's bad for him. They're no good. And then I watch the Giants with Colt McCoy and Daniel Jones, and I'm like, I got to tell you, it's clever. It's multiple. Are you surprised he's had his success with Colt McCoy and Daniel Jones?
I'm not surprised because one thing that he always talks about in his motto is the team, the team, the team. I know that the pandemic was crazy, with McCarthy and him not being able to be there with the team, but I knew that Jason Garrett would communicate as much as possible over Zoom or whatever else virtual thing that they can get the team going to really build that character that the guys need to really propel them throughout the season. And you can see that they didn't start off as strong, but you can see week after week they're winning football games.
Well, Dallas struggled initially. So what do you hear from former Cowboys about Mike McCarthy? Is he connecting with players?
During the offseason, it was a challenge because when you come in as a new coach, first of all, you have to be very, very vocal, right? He's an older coach, so he relies on his veterans to sort of pick up the pieces where he left off. And I think that that's not happening. Like the DeMarcus Lawrences or the Leighton Van Der Esch's, the leaders that should be on the team, but also all the injuries. The leaders on the team, they're majority all injured, like Tyron Smith and just to name a few, Lyle Collins, all of those guys are actually not there to implement his character of the team. So it's a challenge for him, and I can see that now. Last game, it was 14-17 at halftime, and they came out still a little dead, a little bit soft. So the leadership is what propelled these guys into getting them to where they need to be, and I'm not really seeing that.
It's interesting. I'll tell you a weird story. So I used to cover Oregon football, and they had an old stadium. And then Phil Knight, who founded Nike, gave them a bunch of money. And they had a new stadium, and their facilities were unbelievable. And after the facilities for a couple years, Oregon was not quite as physical. And many people said, their facilities are so nice, they're so entitled, the team got soft. And I think about Dallas. Best practice facility in the league. Best stadium in the league. Multiple players making star money and increasingly not productive. Now I'm not saying anybody in the NFL is soft, but when I watch Dallas, they're not a physical team to me. And I think to myself, best practice facility, overpaid guys, best stadium, for best team playing. Do the Cowboys ever, I know they've had a lot of injuries, but did you ever feel like sometimes there was a little fat cat feeling in Dallas? Because right now they got a lot of guys making star money, and I'm not seeing star productivity, DeMarcus.
When I played, I remember every team that we played, they said we walked out like we were gladiators, like we were monsters. They were like, they are so big. They are so intimidating. And we just run the plays that we want to run. And you got to own up to it. And you just got to take that, right? But now it's a different challenge to where you have a lot of the players that are there. Do they still have that gladiator mentality? Because if it's 14-17 at half, and I have an opportunity as a leader to now make a statement against the Ravens, I promise you we're not losing that football game because of who we are and what we stand for and all the injuries, all the battles that we've been through. Now, how can we prove everybody wrong with what we got, with what the leadership we have? And like, again, I said earlier, I'm not seeing a lot of that. I'm not seeing a lot of that grit, a lot of that thump in the trenches to where you see guys making those big hits. And like a play like this right here, I probably wouldn't even come on the football field if a quarterback ran through the middle of the defensive line like that. That should not be happening.
Yeah. So the Cowboys have mostly been good, not great, over the last decade. So it's very doubtful they're going to have a top 5 draft pick again. So they're going to have a top 5 draft pick. This is rare air. Dallas generally doesn't draft top 3, 4. They did a few years ago to get Zeke, the Tony Romo injury year. So this is a prized pick. There are great quarterbacks. We know in the top 10, 15 picks, you're getting like, these are the best of the best. If you had that pick, they've got defensive issues. They don't need a wide receiver. That I know. They have O-line issues. There's some good quarterbacks. What would you do to start the rebuild, DeMarcus, for the Cowboys with that pick?
If I'm giving up over 250 yards, like last game, over 150 yards a game, I would go and get an anchor in the middle of the defense, because obviously there's somebody that's not there, that's not anchoring, that's taking up 2 guys to where a Leighton and Jalen Smith can really move around and make plays. So I will go get a monster in the middle. If we're going to be running a hybrid type defense, there has to be a beast in the middle to anchor to now let everybody else loose, the DeMarcus Lawrences, the Alden Smiths, the Randy Gregory's of the world, so they can be effective. That will be the first thing I would get, somebody that's going to bring the thump, like I said, to the defensive line, but also that grit. Where's that gritty person, that person that's very vocal? I hadn't heard anything from anybody, but I just been seeing a lot of losses.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Jalen Hurts is going to replace Carson Wentz. So when you're a player in a locker room and a quarterback is struggling and they put the backup in, do you feel bad for the starter? Do you question the coaching staff? How does it land for players what's going to happen in Philadelphia?
It was a time to where, let's say when Romo came in and Drew Bledsoe went out, I was like, okay, well, you have Romo coming in. But what really sold me on the deal was the plays didn't change. And a quarterback that came in with authority, with laughter, with confidence, someone who wanted to make us better but not turn the ball over. And sometimes you need that spark from the whole team of change. And then the guys corral around you a little bit, because week after week, if the same quarterback is doing the same thing, I'm going to start bickering a little bit and saying, hey, you can't be turning the ball over like this. We're not converting on third downs. Who else do we need to put in there to be the catalyst to keep us going?
Yeah. I want to go back to McCarthy. Old school. You said old school, which leads me to believe you tend to be not a fan of old school. Do you think he should retain his job? Do you think he's the right voice for this roster?
I think he's the right voice for the roster, but the thing is, you have to win these last football games and get the mentality of what it feels like to win. Going into next season, knowing that there's not going to be a crazy pandemic, you instill the character of what the McCarthy way with the Dallas Cowboys, and then you establish the leaders that need to lead that's going to help you from an offensive and defensive standpoint to now make your motto stick. So I think he is the guy, but he never had a chance to really talk to a lot of the players in the offseason and instill who he was and how he does things. And I think this offseason is going to be good for them if they win some football games.
Right. By the way, you have a new fitness app. It's called DTW, Driven to Win. DTW. It's DeMarcus.
D2W.
What did I say? DTW? D2W. By the way, You have weights behind you. This is a silly question. So I'm not. I lift weights, but mostly just to keep in shape so I can eat more. At your most, D2W, at your most, what did you bench?
I benched 425.
Oh, God.
Around about 425, squat about 600 when I was playing. But now it's all changed, man. I've gotten an opportunity to really give back, because when I retired, 3 back surgeries, 1 neck surgery, I didn't have an opportunity. That's why I retired. And then I came up with this app. I said I wanted to make my new locker room the weight room and motivate people through fitness. So for the last 2.5 years, I've been working my butt off with all the content in this app. But I wanted people to have the experience that NFL and athletes have. So that's why I added in 3D models, augmented reality, but also artificial intelligence that grows with you along the way. And this is for everybody, the beginner, meaning the first time someone ever goes and works out like you, right? You said
That's
you
right.
just work out just a little bit, all the way to the advanced athlete. And you have a user experience to where you can actually put it in the room with you and have a virtual trainer with you from your cell phone, and shows you how to do all of the exercises, the tempos, the reps, any variations, and it takes you through every single aspect of fitness.
Okay, Driven to Win, DTW. You're one of the good guys. I love having you. You're such a positive force, and I love that. Now that you're a weak, frail old guy, how much do you bench?
I probably put 315 on the bar every once in a while. I have 315 actually behind me. I was benching it before you called me, just to make sure I got a little bit of a pump before I got on the whole deal. But yeah, probably about 315. That's what I would always usually put on the bar sometimes at the most.
Just a little pump. Just need a little pump. It's what Goulet. It's what you do before a show, Goulet. You get on a little. You have pizza pump. Just a little. Just want to have that little. Good. DeMarcus, great seeing you.
Hey, thank you so much.